survival of many societies and biological support systems of the planet are at risks. That's what we're doing. And what do we talk now? I'll prove it. Regulation, innovation, medicalisation, monetarisation. That's the new politics of cannabis. Do we talk about the environment, degradation of natural resources, packaging, transport? Only here. It's the first time I've heard it. Labour conditions, work conditions, gender, poverty, inequality, energy use, promoting peace, food security. The majority of the cannabis industry has no interest in it. So, what can the cannabis industry do? What can the UN do? What I suggested today was the UN made a deal because they have a great difficulty coming to a decision on this. And the deal's a simple one. But they say to the cannabis people, you know what? You can have whatever you want, but you've got to do it in line with these goals, not only in line, to the highest possible standard, and we will monitor and hold you to account that you have to do it more than anyone else. If you want it, you can do it, but you do it on our terms like that, if these goals mean anything. But the UN's not going to do that. Not going to say that. It would make the cannabis industry have to invent different economic models. The cannabis industry would have to develop different ways of agriculture. It would have to do all sorts of things in order to survive. But that might actually help. And the cannabis industry doesn't need the UN to do that. It's a burgeoning industry with all sorts of legal problems. They could do that on their own volition. They could say, no, we're going to make these goals more than achievable. We are going to be innovators in a more humanistic and ethical way of dealing with ourselves, other species, and the environment we live in. But they're not going to do that either because they're chasing the same money that's causing the problem. So if we want to understand the ethics of cannabis and the ethics of decision making at the UN, we need to ask ourselves why. Why, though, the UN cannot put those goals in place and say, hit them and you can have it, and why the cannabis industry can't even do it without that. When it comes to politics and business, where's what you do? How do those come together? How do your politics and your business and your economy come together? It's not what drugs mean in society. It's not what these plants mean. It's what these plants tell us about ourselves. So if we stop looking at it as a human-centric point of view, this is what I need to do with the plant, this is what this government's doing to me, and how do the plants see it? What if you step outside that human viewpoint for a minute and look at it from another point of view, which maybe doesn't have language, maybe doesn't have letters and numbers? What if you look at us from that? What are we doing? And it becomes quite bizarre. It becomes very alien. But cannabis doesn't have to do that because, of course, it's got the commoditized cure-all. It's going to provide healthy lives of daily use, regardless of the impacts elsewhere. So I finally come down to the point of policy. The UN could regulate cannabis in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. It could say, if you fulfill these goals to the highest standards, you can have your cannabis. But it's not going to do that. And the cannabis industry could lead ethical innovation. It could be world leaders in pushing these goals to levels unseen. But it's not going to do that either. And if you want to know the ethics of what's going on between policy and the industry, it's why they're not going to do that. Why they're not going to fulfill the goals is the ethics of what is going on now. Listen to the plants.